Who would have thought that Leicester City would be relegated to the third tier of English football?
One of the greatest sporting achievements ever. The former champions of England are heading to lower league.
This is the club that shocked the world by winning the Premier League at 5,000 to 1 odds. A fairy tale that still feels unreal today. Like seriously, the odds of me bagging Madison beer was better than 5,000 to 1. Leicester pushed the league's elite under Brendan Rodgers and came heartbreakingly close to Champions League football more than once. It wasn't that long ago that they were celebrating lifting the FA Cup for the first time. They even made a deep run to the Conference League semi-final. Even when they dropped out of the top flight, they bounced straight back by winning the championship under Enzo Maresca, also known as Chicken Parm Pep. For years, Leicester were the example of how smart recruitment, a clear identity and belief could take a club to the top. You know, the polar opposite of Chelsea. But while their rise felt unbelievable, the last few years have been the complete opposite. Instead of chasing Europe or building on past success, Leicester were fighting just to stay in the division. A 6-point deduction for breaking profit and sustainability rules dragged them right into a relegation battle that they didn't win. The same team that once made history has now fallen further down English football. Now, instead of dreaming about Europe, Leicester are gonna have to play in League One for the second time in their 142-year history. So how did it all go wrong? When Leicester got relegated from the Premier League again, a lot of people thought they could just bounce straight back up like they did a couple of years earlier. The confidence wasn't as high as it was when Enzo Maresca arrived back in 2023 with a huge budget and a clear mission to bring the club back to the top flight. But even so, there was still hope. When Marty Cifuentes took over, many believed he had enough quality in the squad to at least push for a top 6 finish and a shot at promotion through the playoffs. On paper, the team still had experienced players who had played at international level, but behind the scenes, things weren't as simple as they looked. The club had been losing serious money for years and were already walking a tightrope with financial rules. People close to the situation knew the rebuild was bigger than most fans realized, and there was always the fear that punishment was coming after charges linked to breaking PSR rules during the 2023-2024 promotion season.
Leicester have been handed a 6-point deduction for a breach of financial spending rules.
So while some people were dreaming about promotion, others understood that this season might just be about survival. Now, the reality is fully hit. The initial 6-point deduction, which Leicester said was disproportionate, dragged them right into a relegation fight. The club felt like the original punishment was unprecedented, and they were still trying to decide what to do next. Meanwhile, the Premier League and the EFL actually saw the 6 points as too soft, with reports saying that the top flight originally wanted an even bigger penalty. These guys are some haters, man. How you guys ganging up on Leicester City and Manchester City still haven't been investigated fully for the 115 charges? Now, the point deduction was bad, but Leicester's decline really started after the 2021-2022 season. That was when Brendan Rodgers first said that the squad needed a refresh, which at the time felt strange considering everything that the club had achieved. Looking back now, Rodgers gave us a warning sign of what was coming next. Under him, Leicester looked to be improving. They started the 2020 season picking up 38 points from their first 16 matches, which included an 8-game winning streak from the 19th of October to the 8th of December. They absolutely slapped Southampton 9-0, making history, and even reached the semi-finals of the League Cup. But despite their fantastic start, their form dropped off towards the end of the season as the Foxes only won 2 of their 9 games after the league resumed due to the coronavirus. 3 defeats in their last 4 matches caused them to slide into 5th. Now keep in mind, this was still Leicester's second highest finish in Premier League history, but given they had been in a position for Champions League football all year, ending the season with Europa League seemed disappointing. Rodgers looked to be the right man for the job as Leicester won the FA Cup in May of 2021, their second major trophy in the space of 5 years. Yuri Tielemans scored the only goal as Leicester defeated Chelsea at Wembley.
And the referee blows the whistle. Leicester City with a triumph for the ages after 130.
They continued their form, winning the Community Shield in August of 2021, showing that their good form from the season before was no fluke. While their group performances in the Europa League were more disappointing than me when I watch Arsenal play football, their transfer to the newly established Conference League proved to be a blessing in disguise. Leicester ended up getting all the way to the semi-finals of the competition, losing to Roma. It wasn't the Champions League, but it was still the club's first ever European semi-finals. Everything was looking good, but the club's finances began to be heavily impacted by the pandemic. Now, Leicester were hit harder than most clubs because their parent company, King Power International Group, was in the travel retail sector. It also didn't help that Leicester had spent big in the summer of 2021 as they tried to move away from their business model of constantly selling their best players. Because before, N'Golo Kante, Danny Drinkwater, Riyad Mahrez, Harry Maguire, and Ben Chilwell had all departed for nearly £260 million in fees. But this time, instead of selling, Leicester spent more than £50 million on new players such as Daka, Soumare, and Vestergaard. When you spend big like that, you have to perform, and Leicester didn't. In the 2022 season, they didn't qualify for European football. At the same time, the club was trying to invest in infrastructure to better compete with the Premier League's big six in the longer term. So they were getting screwed in both ways. They were investing off the pitch, but the results on the pitch weren't matching those investments. Another issue was Leicester failing to sell some of their big earners. Players like Tielemans, Evans, and Soyuncu all left as free agents.
Players out of contract. I mean, we've heard it said so many times over the years, the team is too good to go down. When you look at some of the ability in that Leicester team, I think it's a genuine case this year to say exactly there.
Rodgers ended up leaving the club on the 2nd of April 2023 via mutual consent, with the team in the relegation zone with only 10 matches left.
Huge breaking news from the Premier League, specifically with Leicester City, because Brendan Rodgers is no longer their manager.
Leicester already knew they were pushing their luck financially. Their spending was way higher than what they were bringing in. Kind of like my bank account when I first got my girlfriend. The club posted losses of more than £90 million. Those seasons where they just missed out on the Champions League, like finishing 5th in both 2020 and 2021, turned out to be massive what-if moments. If they had qualified, that extra money could have backed up their big spending and maybe kept things stable. Instead, they were left with carrying the risk without the rewards. Now, even with those big financial losses, Leicester still managed to finish 8th in the Premier League in the 2022 season. So when they got relegated in the following year, it felt like a massive collapse out of nowhere. And even though they bounced back by winning the championship with Enzo Maresca in 2024, the deeper problems that had dragged them down in the first place were never really fixed. Those same cracks showed up again when they were relegated once more in the 2025 season. It was proof that promotion alone hadn't solved anything behind the scenes. When the Foxes were back in the Premier League in the 2024-2025 season, they were so happy. Almost as happy as me when I see you guys hit the like button. But that happiness lasted about as long as your uncle in the bedroom. Just weeks after winning promotion, Enzo Maresca left them for Chelsea. It was a massive opportunity for him, but a huge blow for Leicester.
Big breaking news, and Chelsea's search for a new head coach could be coming to an end, because we're told Chelsea have been given permission by Leicester City to speak to their head coach Enzo Maresca.
Suddenly, the club had no manager and no clear direction right before their biggest challenge, which was trying to survive in the Premier League again. On top of Maresca, Dewsbury Hall also went to Chelsea too. So just like that, two key pieces of the title-winning team were gone. So the board brought in a familiar name, Steve Cooper. He had done great work at Nottingham Forest and had a strong reputation for developing younger players. So on paper, it made sense. But from the start, things just didn't feel right. Cooper's defensive reactive style clashed with a squad that had been built to dominate possession. Players who were used to controlling games were suddenly sitting deep and absorbing pressure. He never really found a settled starting 11. The midfield looked lost, and the attack had no rhythm. So it came as no surprise that they lost 6 times in the opening first 10 games. By November, Leicester were sitting 18th, and the King Power Stadium was quiet. The breaking point came after a 4-0 loss to West Ham. The performance looked flat and lifeless, like Manchester United under Ruben Amorim. So, Cooper was sacked, with the club already in trouble. Looking for a spark, Leicester turned to Ruud van Nistelrooy. The former Manchester United and Real Madrid striker arrived with big expectations after showing some promise at PSV. His first couple of matches gave fans hope, a win over Brighton and a draw with West Ham. But that momentum disappeared quickly. Leicester lost 11 of his first 15 games. They somehow managed a win against Tottenham, everybody beat Spurs, but it didn't change the bigger picture, as more heavy defeats followed, including a 4-0 loss at Everton. Once again, the team looked confused and the problems kept growing. By February of 2025, everything was falling apart. 6 straight home losses without scoring, which was actually a Premier League record. A heavy defeat to Brentford that saw fans leaving early. 10 losses in 11 matches, with just 1 league win after New Year's Day. The mood around the club shifted from anger to pure exhaustion. Even the fan protests started to feel quieter. The supporters were just drained. During the defeat at Everton, after conceding almost immediately, the traveling fans began singing about relegation, because it already felt inevitable. Leicester conceded the first goal in most of their games. I mean, they went down quicker than your local hooker. They kept less clean sheets than Bonnie Blue, with defensive mistakes happening week after week. Many supporters didn't just blame the players or the manager. They pointed at the boardroom. At the time, the director of football, John Rudkin, and CEO Susan Whelan stayed mostly silent, offering little reassurance while the results kept getting worse. Walkouts became more common, chants against the leadership grew louder, and it was obvious the problems went far beyond the pitch. According to The Athletic, for the last 4 seasons, Leicester have kept telling themselves that they'd already hit rock bottom, and that the rebuild was about to begin. But now, it's obvious things can still get worse. Up at the boardroom level, there's still been a clear lack of leadership. According to The Athletic, after Chief Executive Susan Whelan left, the chairman, who is known as Koen Top, that's his nickname, there's no way I can pronounce his full name, stepped in as the interim CEO, but even he wasn't able to turn around the club consistently. The anger from the fans has been building for years, and it really showed when the supporters organized a boycott during the West Brom game in early January. Even though the official attendance was listed as over 27,000, that number actually included season ticket holders who stayed home, because the reality was huge sections of the King Power Stadium were empty. On the pitch, the results were poor. The pressure kept growing until Cifuentes was sacked after a 2-1 loss at home to Oxford United in January. That match was the first one that Koen Top had attended in 2 months, and the toxic atmosphere, mixed with another disappointing performance, felt like the breaking point. Leicester never put together a full good 90-minute performance. At one point, they had gone 24 championship games without keeping a clean sheet. They thought they had turned a corner when they had wins over Derby and Ipswich, but that was far from the truth. They had some rough performances. Like, they were already down 3 goals by halftime against both Southampton and Sheffield United at home back in November of 2025. Just before Christmas, they were losing 4-0 at the break at QPR. And now, it's official. They have been relegated. Leicester City, the team that made a miracle come true in 2016, are no longer that club. They are a shadow of the team that once made us all believe. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you will love this one too. Check it out right here.